When we talk about the knees, it's extremely important to talk about hyperextension in the knees or malalignment in the knees, because many people who come to yoga actually have this problem, and I do myself. So I have a good opportunity to be a model for you for this particular topic. So if I stand sideways, and you can see my knees here, if I just take my knees back or straighten my legs fully, you can see that my shin bone is a little bit behind my femur bone. So this is actually what we call malalignment of the knees, where the shin bone sits behind the femur bone. If you were to draw a line straight through the femur bone and straight through the shin bone, they would not line up. Hyperextension of the knee is a little more severe than this, and that's when the back of the knee actually bulges out, so that you're literally pressing back into the posterior aspect of the knee. Both of these are problematic because what we tend to do is just sit on our joints and our ligaments, and we're not using our muscle integrity. And this can weaken the ligaments of the knee and cause damage. So it's important to avoid hyperextension. So in many poses where you tend to hyperextend, we want to have a little micro bend in the knee, so that if I were to look from the side, it would appear that everything is straight. So a micro bend is just a small bend, not a big bend, because this is too much flexion in the knee. It would be to take a little bit of that extension out and come into a place where there's a straight line from the outer edge of the femur through the outer edge of the tibia. However, what's very important, it's not enough to micro bend, because then we're just sort of releasing pressure from the knee. What we want to do is learn how to use our quadriceps. The strength of our quadriceps will protect our knees in standing poses. So just bending the knees creates a bit of a sense of a collapse in the poses, and we want to have a sense of lifting, of grounding and lifting, not just bending the knees and collapsing in the pose. So bending the knee a tiny bit is not enough. We need to learn how to bend the knee and at the same time how to contract the quadriceps. And this is not easy, because this means you have to play with the resistance on your own. You have to create this inner resistance and resist yourself from moving back or snapping back into your patterns. And this is actually very difficult to do. So it's another example where people who are too flexible or too mobile have to work a lot harder than people who are just tight. So one technique that's very helpful is to take a yoga block and to place it behind your shin in Trikonasana, or poses where you tend to hyperextend the knee. So for example, we can place the block here in Trikonasana at an angle so that when I try to straighten my knee, I can't. The block is actually pushing my shin bone forward and my thigh bone is going back. So now when I press my shin bone back into the block, I really have to work hard with my quads. It's building strength in my quads, but resisting my shin bone from going back. Because if I don't have this resistance, and I take the block out, I can just sit on my knee in the pose and nothing's happening in my quads. So the block can be a useful tool to help to press against. It also gives us a sense of what we need to do in the pose, because when I'm not using the block, what I can do is imagine that the block is there and the block is pressing this way. So I'm going to create my own inner resistance. I'm going to spread my toes, push my big toe mound into the ground, feel the block pushing my shin bone forward, and at the same time I'm engaging my quads, lifting my kneecap. But I'm not just collapsing, I'm allowing my shin bone to come forward and my thigh bone to move back. So I have to create this. This is a lot of work, okay? Working the quads, but this will help build stability around the knee if I tend to hyperextend. I'm going to show you another trick. And this one requires 4 blocks. You're going to place 2 blocks against the wall here, and then another 2 blocks sticking out on top. So this is the position of the blocks. It's another great exercise for building strength in the quads to protect the knees from hyperextension. And then I walk back. So my heels will be behind the blocks. So right now I have the blocks pressing into my shin bones, pushing the shin bones forward. And what I'm gonna do here is try to straighten my legs. That's it. I'm going to push, lift the quads, really work my leg muscles, but at the same time, the shin bones are resisted. They can't go back, they're going forward. So this is a way to really work on strengthening the quads, straightening the legs without hyperextending the knees. So we do this, we hold 30 seconds or so, relax. We don't have to end up straightening completely. It's okay to keep the knees bent because we're working on straightening the thighs, lift the chest, and push. Now if we do this a few times and start to build strength in the quads, then you come out, step away from the wall, and try to do the same thing. We use this as a tool to help give our body a sense of how to create that inner resistance. So now I'll stand in my Tadasana, and I'll imagine I can still feel the blocks pressing into my shin bones. So I feel the blocks pressing them forward, and I start to engage the quads. And for people who are hypermobile, who hyperextend the knees, they don't know how to do this. They need something to show them, this is what it feels like to resist. And so this is a way to really work the leg strength and to teach people how to straighten the legs, but not to jam the knees back or lock the knees back. It also feels really good on the knees, so you feel nice and stable after practicing with the blocks and with resistance.